I'm intersex and straight, imprisoned by my stepbrother, and turned into his plaything. 3 months later, I got pregnant and fled in desperation. I thought I'd never see him again. But when my son got a fever, I ran into my stepbrother, who'd become a pediatrician. Running into Gulin was something I never expected. My son had a high fever that wouldn't break, so I rushed him to the pediatric ward. The moment I stepped into the ward, the attending physician looked up and our eyes met. I remembered that man's cold, hard features, his calm, piercing gaze that struck straight at the fear in my soul. When he saw me, his pen paused slightly. My blood ran cold, and I could barely breathe. Then he looked down and kept writing. Time seemed to freeze. I held my son tight and turned to run. Daddy, I don't feel good. My son's voice was soft and weak, snapping me back to reality. I pulled my mask up higher, as if that would give me extra protection. I prayed Gulin hadn't recognized me, but clearly, I was wrong. Gulin finished writing up the previous patient's chart, capped his pen, and finally looked up at me. His gaze swept over my son in my arms, then settled on my face, with a penetrating look that seemed to see right through me. My son looks 30% like him, 70% like me. I felt all my blood rush to my head, then drain away instantly, leaving only bone, deep cold. He recognized me. This realization made my knees weak, and I almost dropped my son. What's wrong with the child? He suddenly spoke, his voice steady and cold, with no emotional inflection. High fever, cough. I tried to stay calm, but my voice still trembled. Gulin stood up and picked up his stethoscope. He was even taller than before, now almost a full head taller than me. Gulin approached me step by step, his shadow stretching longer under the lights with each step, eventually swallowing me completely. That familiar cold scent, mixed with disinfectant, pressed down on me. Danger made me instinctively step back, my spine nearly hitting the cold tile wall. My obvious retreat seemed to please him. He stared straight at my exposed eyes, the corner of his mouth turning up slightly, like a hunter watching his prey's futile struggle. I dug my nails into my palms, gritted my teeth behind the mask, and looked away to avoid his stare. He ignored my retreat and went through the motions, placing the stethoscope on my son's chest. When he leaned down, his wrist was just inches from my chin. The cedar scent lingering on his wrist drifted past my nose, faint and steady. I used to be completely drawn to how this scent calmed me. Now it just made my stomach sure. The stethoscope was cold, and my son whimpered from discomfort, squirming in my arms and waving his little hands. Gulin's voice was deep, not harsh but naturally commanding. He reached out with his other hand, his piano-trained fingers long and slender, easily gripping my son's waving wrist with practiced precision and absolute control. Watching my son's tiny arm restrained by him, my heart felt like it was being squeezed, making it hard to breathe. He kept his head down, continuing the examination. Wage, 2 years old, 2.5. I steadied my breathing to answer, deliberately avoiding specifics, my heart pounding. 2.5. He looked up, his eyes cold as ice. He looked smaller than other kids his age. My palms were sweating cold, even my mask felt damp. After finishing the examination, he straightened up and stepped back to his desk, wiping his hands with alcohol, while casually dropping a bombshell. Where's the child's mother? Gulin smiled meaningfully. It's rare for fathers to bring kids to the hospital this late at night. My breath caught and I froze, drowning in endless fear. He knew. He was testing me. Panic wrapped around my throat like vines. I could hear my own muffled, labored breathing behind the mask. When I didn't answer, Gulin sat back down and started typing. The child has acute pneumonia. I need to confirm some hereditary conditions. Does his mother's side have any family genetic disorders? His long fingers tapped the keyboard in a steady, crisp rhythm, each keystroke hitting my taut nerves. I held my son's feverish body tighter and forced myself to answer calmly. No, none. Gulin paused and glanced at me. Is that so? His tone carried cold mockery. I nodded stiffly. Gulin said nothing more, just kept typing. Then he calmly organized the printed forms and test orders, slowly handing them to me. I stiffly reached out my hand. Just as my fingertips were about to touch the papers, he pulled his hand back half an inch, leaving me grasping at air. I looked up in shock, meeting his bottomless eyes. He stared at me, slowly placing the papers into my frozen hand. Go handle the admission procedures. Gulin stared at my mask as if his gaze could burn it to ash. His deep, pleasant voice clearly pronounced 3 words that sent me into an icy howl. Oh, Mr. Kia. He deliberately slowed his speech, emphasizing each syllable, as if grinding this fake surname between his teeth. I clutched all the forms and practically fled the room with my son. I didn't dare look back, but I could clearly feel Gulin's gaze glued to my back. The hallway lights were harsh white. I walked fast, almost running. Only when I turned the corner and was completely out of his sight did I dare lean against the wall and gasp for air. My son whimpered again from my sudden movements, his little face burning red. He found out. He definitely found out. This knowledge coiled around my heart like a venomous snake. I went through the admission procedures in a daze. I barely heard what the nurse said. just nodded mechanically signed papers, and took my son for blood tests. Only when I got my son settled in the hospital room did I breathe a little easier. Thank God it wasn't a private room. The room had 4 beds, with 2 other children in the outer beds. My son was assigned to the innermost bed. I got my son settled in bed, and a nurse came to start his ARV. The cold medicine flowed through his veins, and he gripped my finger with his little hand, drifting off to sleep. I sat in the chair by the bed, eyes glued to the glass window in the door, terrified that figure would appear any second. Time crawled by, each second feeling like torture. The door was pushed open gently. I tensed like a startled rabbit. It was just a nurse coming to check temperatures. I slumped with relief, breaking out in a cold sweat. But this brief peace was quickly shattered. About an hour later, the door opened again. Gulin walked in alone, his white coat spotless. Making rounds, he was brief, skipping the 2 patients in the outer beds, and walking straight to my son's bed, picking up his chart. I swallowed nervously, and pulled my mask up again. Gulin scanned the temperature records, then looked at me. The fever medicine is working. I nodded stiffly. He suddenly leaned down and reached to adjust my son's pillow. His arm crossed in front of me, that familiar cedar scent wrapping around me again. I jerked back so hard I knocked over the chair. The folding chair crashed down with a loud clang in the quiet room. Gulin froze, slowly straightening up to look at me with calm, scrutinizing eyes. That nervous? He moved closer, his voice low enough that only I could hear. I was just adjusting his pillow so he could breathe easier. My face went pale and my lips trembled. I couldn't speak. Gulin stopped looking at me, seemed to casually brush my son's forehead, finally picking up a small card that had fallen by the pillow. It was my son's children's insurance card with his name clearly printed. Qian. Jia. Gulin said the name quietly, his tone calm, but with deliberate amusement. He looked at me again, his smile somehow unsettling. Nice name. He put the insurance card back by the pillow and left. The moment the door closed, I collapsed into the chair, pulling off my mask to gulp fresh air. In front of Gulin, all my disguises and fears were completely exposed. Gulin is my stepbrother in name, and Qian's biological father. When I was 10, an accident took my parents. The Gu family took me in under the guise of adoption, making me their stepson. Later I realized they just wanted a playmate for their only son. Gulin's parents were always traveling for business, leaving only the housekeeper and Gulin in the huge mansion. My arrival broke that loneliness, but also ignited Gulin's anger. He didn't welcome me, thinking I was stealing the parental love that should have been his. At first it was just minor harassment, making me do his homework, throwing away my backpack, spreading rumors at school that I was trying to steal the Gu family fortune, causing those rich kids to target me. As a child dependent on others, I silently endured his unreasonable behavior, but my compliance only made him bolder. On his 20th birthday, he gave me a red collar. Under my shocked gaze, he held the collar up to my neck. His voice excited. Good boy, put it on. Gulin. My voice shook. Don't do this. He leaned close to my ear, his tone intimate but cold. Brother, did you forget your last lesson? Or do you want to show everyone your freakish body? I froze, looking down at the party guests below. Ever since he discovered I was intersex, he trapped me in that mansion, using me however he wanted. I closed my eyes in despair and let Gulin put the collar on me, seeing the satisfied gleam in his eyes. Now that's my good little pet. I numbly obeyed. Yes, master. He hooked his finger through the collar, and suddenly yanked me toward him. Remember, everything you have was given by the Gu family. He lowered his voice. And you belong to me. Gulin's words were like a devil's whisper. I woke from the nightmare. The night was deep, and the hospital room eerily quiet. The IV dripped steadily like a countdown timer. In the dim nightlight, I stared at my son's sleeping face. His thick lashes fluttered in sleep, looking more and more like that man. Especially tonight, when Gulin leaned down to examine him. For a moment their faces almost overlapped in the light. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. I couldn't stay any longer. All these years I'd hidden and fled. But the blood connection was becoming clearer as my son grew. The way Gulin looked at my son today showed he was already suspicious. Someone as sharp and clever as him, discovering that Qian was his son, was just a matter of time. At school, Lin knew this was his flesh and blood. I shuddered, remembering what he said the day he put that collar on me. If he knew about the child, he'd stop at nothing to take him away. The Gu family had that power, and he would show no mercy. I had to leave. I had to leave now. As dawn broke outside, the urge to flee grew wild. With trembling hands, I booked the earliest train ticket to Ming City. Ming City had a mild climate year-round, perfect for my son to recover. More importantly, it was far enough away. When the IV finished, a nurse came to remove the needle. While packing, my son's fever medicine slipped from my fingers. I crouched down to pick it up, seeing my pale, frightened reflection in the cabinet door. Just like that boy who put on the collar 10 years ago. No, I won't let Gulin take Anan away. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. My jaw's breaking. I gently shake my sleeping son awake. I cover his mouth before he can speak. And Daddy's taking you to see the ocean. I pick up my son to leave the hospital room. But just as we reach the door, someone opens the door from outside. Guling takes off his white coat, puts on a black overcoat, and stands before me with a chill in the air, holding a manila envelope in his hand. I instinctively hold my son tighter, stepping back into the room. Guling's gaze first falls on my son's face, then slowly moves to me as he walks toward me step by step. His tall figure completely engulfs me, bringing a suffocating sense of pressure. I pull my mask over half my face, protecting my son in my arms, catching a glimpse of the bold letters on his envelope. Paternity test results. I jolt awake, chest heaving violently, cold sweat soaking my back. The hospital room is dead silent at dawn, my son still peacefully on his owl. The IV drips one drop at a time, falling like a countdown from my dream. I tuck the blanket around my son, with trembling hands, fingertips touching his warm skin. His features so similar to Gulin's, making my heart tighten. Having a nightmare? Guling's low, hoarse voice suddenly breaks the room's silence. A chill runs up my spine to the top of my head as I sit up straight. Guling sits across from me, legs crossed, medical chart on his lap. Shadows hiding his face, so I can't read his expression. His voice carries exhaustion. What did you dream about? I panic and stand up, hitting the IV stand so hard it shakes violently, dizziness hitting me like a black tide. My son's had a high fever for days, and I've been caring for him around the clock, completely exhausted. Running into Gulin again has my nerves on edge. My temples throb, a sharp ringing in my ears. Gulin's figure starts to blur in my vision. As soon as I open my mouth, my knees give out. The whole room spins and tilts, ceiling lights twisting into blinding halos. I see Gulin rushing toward me, and before I fall into complete darkness, I feel strong arms catching my falling body. Brother. Gulin's voice is unusually panicked. I'm forced against his chest, surrounded by the scent of cedar, an antiseptic from his white coat. Through his clothes, I clearly feel the irregular trembling in his chest, his frantic heartbeat pounding in my ears like drums. So he can get nervous too, can feel anxious. I want to laugh, but I don't have the strength. Hey Ellie, I see the bite mark tattoo on his collarbone. The mark I left 3 years ago in resistance. When I wake up again, I'm lying in the hospital bed with a nutrient IV in my hand. Morning light filters through the blinds onto my face. I'm disoriented for a moment, then turn to see Gulin sitting nearby. His hands are crossed in front of him, white coat wrinkled beyond recognition, face exhausted, eyes closed in rest. My body feels too heavy to move. I look around the room, seeing my son sleeping peacefully in the bed next to mine, and I breathe a sigh of relief. Awake? Gulin raises his hand to pinch his nose bridge, voice tired and hoarse. I look at him. He looks at me. Suddenly, he leans forward, and I have nowhere to escape, shrinking under the covers. His warm, dry palm touches my forehead. The fever's broken. He pulls back, returning to his usual cold demeanor. You didn't know you had a fever. The accusation is clear. I pretend not to hear, turning my face away so he can't see. Maybe it's because I'm sick, or maybe I've just given up. Pretending is pointless now. My fear of seeing him again has actually faded. We're at a standoff, neither speaking. The atmosphere turns awkward. A nurse comes in to change the medication, and I hear Gulin sigh deeply. It sounds like exhaustion or maybe helplessness. Brother. That word pulls me back to reality. I hate when he calls me that. Anger instantly replaces last night's panic. I use all my strength to grab the nurse's tray and hurl it at him. Gulin doesn't dodge. The tray hits him square in the face, clattering to the floor with a loud crash. Blood flows out, streaming down his forehead, slowly running past his eyes, down his cheek, over his jaw, dripping onto his white coat, spreading into a small patch of shocking red. Dr. Gil. The nurse gasps, moving to help treat his wound. Gulin waves her off, gesturing for her to leave first. The nurse hesitates, glancing at me, but finally exits the room. The room falls silent again. I'm breathing heavily, the IV needle in my hand backing up with blood, stinging. Gulin says nothing, just crouches down calmly to pick up the tray. Blood drips to the floor, but he doesn't seem to feel any pain, just methodically collecting the scattered items. He's always like this, always hiding madness behind composure, always in control of everything. I clench my fists, knuckles white, nails digging into my palms, drawing blood. Gulin slowly stands up, puts everything back on the tray, then places it on the cabinet. He looks at me through the blood, eerily calm. Don't venting. My sanity completely snaps. I grab the water glass and hurl it at him, glass exploding into tiny splashes at his feet. Why? Why do you always treat me like this? Years of suppressed grievance and anger burst out. You locked me up like a dog, and now you're acting like the caring brother. Seeing me in pain makes you happy, doesn't it? He just glances at me coolly. Finished. Gulin ignores my pain, stepping forward, his shoes crunching over glass shards with a teeth, grinding sound. Now it's my turn. Gulin stands before me, looking dull, shadows swallowing my helpless rage. He watches me calmly. First, I locked you up because you wanted to kill yourself. My breath catches. Second, Gulin pauses, leaning down close to me, his breath on my face, mixed with the sharp smell of blood. His blood-stained face shows an almost gentle smile. You really think you could have faked your death and escaped so easily, without my permission? My heart trembles violently. Third, he reaches out to stroke my cheek. His face gentle yet cruel. I never have. Daddy. A soft, sleepy voice suddenly interrupts Gu Lin. My son rubs his drowsy eyes looking at us. Seeing Galin's bloody forehead, his little face turns pale. Galin instinctively turns away, quickly grabbing gauze to cover his wound. He forces a stiff but gentle smile at Qian. Uncle just bumped into something. That instinctive, protective gesture. My anger suddenly freezes in my chest. Can't spit it out. Can't swallow it down. Makes me sick. Gu Lin once said he loved me, while chaining me to the bed like a dog, touching my body that I despised, saying he loved me. Brother, no one can separate us, not even death. He said this while forcing himself on me. My fierce resistance turned to desperate begging, finally biting down on his collarbone, sobbing broken sounds. He was completely insane, treating me as his possession, trampling my dignity. In that huge mansion, I was confined to one bedroom. The room was carpeted throughout. Every corner I could touch had protective padding. Even the utensils were made of silicone. Galin wouldn't let me die, but he erased my existence. Under his control, I was completely socially dead. No one knew he had imprisoned me. No one sensed my despair. I spent day after day in that villa. Seasons changing, imprisoned for so long, I can't remember how long. Guling tormented me day after day. I lost myself in pain and loneliness. And he became my dependency. I was trapped in the web he wove for me. Until I felt something strange in my belly and suddenly woke up. I had to escape. Once the thought took root, I began planning, satisfying his every demand each day. My compliance pleased him. He let his guard down. I set the room on fire. The blaze destroyed the villa and erased all traces of me. I barely survived with the child in my belly. I thought about not keeping him. But my body's special. If I forced an abortion, I'd die too. I resented Qian's birth. He was the product of Gulin's abuse, my humiliation. But when he was born with that loud cry, his little face red and tender, when his tiny hand accidentally gripped mine, a strange flutter suddenly hit my heart's soft spot. Losing my parents young, I desperately craved family. He was my only blood relative in this world. I looked at him, and he gradually quieted down. Meeting his eyes, I realized my face was already wet with tears. Qian's first instinct, when he woke, was to look for me, maybe because I looked so rough when he saw me. His expression changed, glaring fiercely at Gu Lin. Qian scolded in his sweet voice, "Don't bully my daddy." He jumps out of bed barefoot, right toward the glass shards. Gu Lin and I both reach out. But I've been with Qian day and night. I'm his closest daddy. How could he match my protective instincts and speed? The IV needle tears from my vein instantly. A trailing blood drops in an arc through the air. I don't feel the pain, reaching out to catch Qian's small body, pulling him tighter into my arms, heart still racing. Blood drips from my fingertips onto the glass shards, like little red flowers blooming. Gulin's composure finally cracks. He rushes forward to grab my wrist, pressing hard on the bleeding needle mark. He's unusually tense. Even his breathing loses rhythm. "Don't move." Gulin reaches for the call button with his other hand. Movements actually panicked. Seeing me bleed, Qian breaks from my embrace, his tiny fists hitting Gulin's shoulder. "Don't bully my daddy, bad man." Gulin freezes, looking at Qian, whose features mirror his own, then at our joined hands. I break free from his grip, protecting Qian in my arms. I coldly order him out. "Get out." Complex emotions flash in Gulin's eyes as he slowly lowers his suspended hand. "Qihei." He calls my fake name directly. He's my child. Gulin looks into my eyes, confirming. "Right?" I hold Qian tighter, almost crushing him. Anxiety fills my heart. Don't let him. Take a Qian and away. Qian is all I have. Qian's cries echo in the room. All I hear is sharp ringing. "Hihi, let go." Gulin comes to pry my hands apart. Unusually panicked brother. He's suffocating. I snap back to reality. Qian can't breathe, nearly fainting in my arms. Gulin takes advantage of my distraction to grab him, laying him on his shoulder, gently patting his back to help him breathe. Nurses rushing to the room. Gulin holds Qian back. I try to approach, but 2 nurses pin me to the bed. "Give him a sedative." Panic deepens as I thrash on the bed, like a fish out of water, antiseptic and tears flooding my throat. "No, don't give an arm back to me." The needle pierces my skin as I stare at Qian's tear-stained face. Qian tries to turn to see me. "Daddy." Gulin blocks his view, palm gently covering his head with soothing pats, voice soft as a lullaby. "Don't be scared. It'll be over soon." The medication flows through my limbs like a tide, vision blurring. The last thing I see is Gulin crouching down holding Qian's little face peeking over his shoulder, reaching toward me with worry. I slept for a very long time, dreaming of my parents and young me on the road home. The car spinning out of control, them lifting me out of the wreckage. Flames engulfed the car and the villa that imprisoned me. As a child, I crawled on the ground. Having escaped Gulin's control, I stand at the villa entrance. The fire mercilessly devours everything. The scene shifts to Gulin holding Qian's hand. They walk away from me, laughing and talking. I chase after them, but can never catch up. Voices buzz densely in my ears. His condition is traumatic stress disorder. I wake up to a pale ceiling that makes me dizzy. Chuyan lies beside me, his little face streaked with tears. I reach out to touch his tender face. Probably the effect of sedatives. An unexplained calm settles in my heart. Gulin talks with another doctor, noticing I've awakened. He signals the doctor, who then leaves the room. Your body is severely malnourished. Is this how you've been living these years? Gulin's cold sarcasm, as always. I hold Qian as she nuzzles against my chin, finding a comfortable position to lean against me. Sunlight outside is bright, but so blinding. I remain silent for a long time, my dry lips barely moving to clearly say, I'm tired. I don't want to pursue the past, and I don't want to see you in the future. Gulin doesn't respond, and I don't look at him. I don't want to know what he looks like right now. Time seems frozen, and eerie silence spreads through the air. After who knows how long, I close my eyes. I hear Gulin's barely audible response. Okay. From that day on, Gulin truly never appeared again. Qian's pneumonia wasn't healed. The attending physician was changed. I still compromised and continued staying in the hospital. I negotiated with the doctor to change rooms, but was told it was already paid for, and meals for this week were already ordered. Looking at the delivered meals, I'm a bit dazed. Everything inside is food I love to eat. For a whole week in the hospital, I never saw Gulin. Reuniting with him seemed like just a dream. He completely disappeared from my world. 7 days later, Qian recovered and was discharged. I brought him back to our cramped rental. This is a small county town. The Gu family is thousands of miles away, so I never expected to run into Gulin while taking my son to see a doctor. When I escaped the Gu family villa years ago, I spent time in the basement, working several jobs daily to save money. Until Qian was born, I finally managed to come here. Spent 400 to rent this top, 4 single room. Though it's still bad, it's much better than the damp basement. Pushing open the rental door, mustiness and dust hit my face. Leftover instant noodles moldy in the corner. The faucet dripping. Rotten vegetable leaves overflow from the trash can. Neighbors arguing through the thin walls, mixed with children crying. This rundown building is packed with people. Most are drifters. The security isn't very good. Stepping inside, dust rises from the floor. Qian coughs from the irritation. I open the only window to let air circulate. Mahjong sounds and cooking smells immediately rush in from downstairs. Qian coughs even worse, his small body curled up by the bed, coughing so hard he can barely breathe. I hurriedly pat his back to help him breathe, have him wait in the bathroom that barely fits one person in. After cleaning the rental, I made 2 bowls of noodles, took Tian to the rooftop to eat. Qian holds his small bowl, sitting on a stool swinging his little legs, his face glowing with happiness. Daddy, this is so good. I love you so much. He's easily satisfied. After eating well in the hospital, now eating plain noodle soup, he's still very happy. Nothing like Gulin at all. I freeze for a moment, not knowing why I thought of Gulin. Qian tilts his head staring at me, then leans against me. As his father, I know he's being affectionate. Daddy, why did the doctor uncle disappear? He hugs my arm, speaking in his sweet child's voice. That handsome doctor uncle. He was late to speak and doesn't express himself very clearly. I understand what he means. He's asking why he hasn't seen Gu Lan. Daddy, don't you like him? The child's innocent question hits my source. Paul, I've had love, dependence, and hatred for Gulin. When my parents died, the Gu family adopted me but ignored me. Gulin, with different parents, became my only brother. As his older brother, I was very responsible for Gulin. Seeing I don't respond, Qian buries his head in my chest and nuzzles. Daddy, don't be angry, and I won't ask anymore. Daddy's not angry. I pick up Qian. He cooperatively holds both our bowls and chopsticks. I push open the iron door with one hand, hold him tight and bounce him up. Go downstairs back to our rental. The door across from us is open with a suitcase piled at the entrance. A new neighbor moved in. There's high turnover here. People move in every day, and people move out. I glance across. Across is a 1-bedroom apartment much bigger than mine. 2 cardboard boxes in the entryway. 2 cigarette butts on the ground. I frown and close the door. Qian just recovered from pneumonia. Better keep him from smelling smoke. Later I found out the person across was Gulin. He never smokes. I go to work as usual. Qian stays in our rental. He's just over 2 years old. I don't want to leave him alone. But my workplace doesn't allow children. I can only ask the landlady to help watch him and install surveillance at home. Fortunately, Qian is well behaved. He sees me off every day and waits at home for me to return at night. So understanding it breaks my heart. I don't know what kind of person the new neighbor is. I tried knocking to say hello, but they ignored me. When I came home from work, Qian rushed into my arms. Daddy, a brother made food for me. Which brother? I'm puzzled while taking out my phone to check the surveillance. 我去, and sits in my lap, opening his picture book, while asking, can I play with brother tomorrow? I frown, confused. Which brother? He points to the door. I know he means across the hall. He said when daddy's not home, he can play with me. In the surveillance, The landlady greets the man across. His back is to the camera. I can't see his face. Qian sits on a small stool by the door, munching on an apple the landlady gave him, watching the two chat. Suddenly the neighbor across opens his door and goes back in. Soon he opens the door again and hands the landlady a bowl. I close the surveillance and look at the bowl on the table. Bobby. Qian tilts his head with a puzzled expression. I pick up the bowl, go outside to the door across, and knock. No response from inside. Qian hugs my leg from behind, peeking out his little face to look at me. Brother went out. I return to our rental, with confusion. Ask her what kind of person lives across. After all, this place is mixed. What if he's dangerous to Qian? In the short term, I can't find cheaper housing than this. The landlady tells me he's a distant relative. I breathe a sigh of relief. If the landlady knows him, then it's probably fine. The landlady also says I'm going out to have fun these 2 days. Asked him to help watch your child. I've never seen the neighbor across. Every morning when I leave, there's cooked breakfast at the door. At first I wanted to thank him, but he always avoids me. At night when I come home, there's hot food at the door, with a small note on top. Made too much. Brief and to the point. Over time I realize he means no harm. Qian is much more cheerful and lively than before. Before, when I left him alone at home, he was somewhat timid and didn't like to talk much. Now when I come home, Qian greets me and has become more affectionate than before. And during this time he's been bringing food. I've gained quite a bit of weight. Looking at my face in the mirror, it's rosy and much rounder than before. I think I need to find time to thank him. Can't keep eating for free. But he never opens the door and completely ignores my greetings. So I start bringing him things too. Sometimes handmade steamed buns, sometimes my specialty dishes. Each time after he eats, he'll wash the bowl or plate clean and leave it at my door. Gradually we form a subtle understanding. On work days, he brings me food and watches Chia after I go to work. On rest days I bring him food and collect his clean dishes in the evening. After 6 months like this, I start contacting daycare centers. Qian is growing up. Can't leave him alone at home anymore. Should let him interact with kids his age. This workday I get up early, planning to take Qian to check out a daycare. The door creaks open, startling the man at the door. He's bent over, about to place breakfast on the small stool at my door. Hearing me open the door, his tall frame suddenly trembles and freezes. I didn't expect our face-to-face meeting to be so sudden. Chu and sweetly calls out, "Good morning, brother, hello." I smile and greet him. This is my first time speaking with my neighbor. He's stiff, doesn't dare stand up, somewhat awkwardly covering his face. I lean down curiously and glimpse familiar features. My expression turns cold. What are you doing here? Seeing Glenn again, I'm calm without the panic from our first reunion. I turn away, not wanting to pay too much attention to him. Glenn places the breakfast and stands up without facing me, but turns sideways toward me, looking slightly embarrassed. I protect Qian behind me, waiting for his answer. He just moves his lips, but says nothing. Then he turns and goes back across the hall. The dull sound of the iron door separates him and me. I suddenly deflate like a punctured balloon. My whole body feels weak. I don't want to investigate why he appeared here. He promised never to appear before me again. If he wanted Qian, he would have acted these 6 months. This filthy place, every second here is torture for him. A few days later, I receive a package. Tearing open the document envelope, inside are several contracts. One is the Gu family inheritance agreement, including stock transfers. After the Gu parents died, 20% of their assets go to me. One is a property transfer agreement. Gu Lin transferred all his assets to Qian. And one is Qian's custody agreement. Galin gave up custody of Qi. I rush out and run to the door across, pounding on the iron door until my hands are red. The landlady pokes her head out from the stairs. He moved out 2 days ago. That young man is quite interesting. Said he's sorry to you and can't face you. Said he's sorry to you and can't face you. The landlady looks gossipy. Little Chu, what's your relationship with this young man? I can see he's really nervous about you. I'm stunned and suddenly feel confused. Soon after, I moved out of the rental with Qian. I didn't touch the Gu family assets. My account received child support for Qian. I put this money into a savings account, used my own earnings to move to a better neighborhood. Moving day, it was pouring rain. The movers helped arrange everything. I took Qian around to get familiar with the place. Qian was happy about the new house, cupping my face and kissing me. After putting Qian to bed that night, I tucked him in and returned to my bedroom. With all the moving, I found those stock transfer documents and locked them in the bedside safe. Getting up to close the curtains before resting, I catch a glimpse of a familiar figure downstairs. Galing stands in the rain, his shadow stretched long under the streetlight. He looks up at my bedroom window, like an abandoned house dog. Our eyes meet. His expression is complicated, with regret, pleading, and unconcealed love. I have trouble breathing, and forcefully close the curtains. The heavy curtains block out the rain, and everything outside. I push away distracting thoughts, lie in bed, and close my eyes to sleep. I can't forgive Guli. Some wounds can never heal.